All right. In 1 moment, we can just get to that very fine assembly of information. I'll get to this in a second. This was a topic that I had asked to get on the agenda a few weeks ago, whatever. And so I really appreciate the handout and background material, because that's the first time I've seen it in one place that I can flip 3 pages and thoroughly understand sort of what is before us and so on. It's not as easy on the website, but you can find a lot of the information. So I will turn it over to Jeff or Doug, whoever. Go ahead.
Right. Thank you. Well, I'm going to thank Shannon for putting this information together. As Chad described, this wasn't all consolidated into the form previously. You have to order various cost documents and the like. I'm so previous, but it's very helpful information before it was all. So the question really revolved around what degree do we have upcoming turnover in our board and commissions under positions, and what situations are there terms associated, what situations are there council appointment requirements associated, what situations are term limits associated. And so I think the first page of this is very helpful. What you see in the far left column are all of the various boards, commissions, and committees that serve us all here at Board of Finance on a basis.
Yes.
And then if you go over to the far right columns, the last 3 columns, you can description of whether or not council appoints, what the term lengths are, if there are any, and what the term limits are, if there are any. And so that really kind of informs the information that's subsequent slides about who's going to what boards and not future needs for equipment. Any questions on this?
Just give us a moment. I have some questions. I don't know if they're over here or wait till we go through things, but this is very thorough to have this on one piece of paper. I'll ask my fellow colleagues, is there anything here that jumps out at you that you want to ask a question? Or I guess there's one that's probably appropriate. As we look downstream, that we're going to have a new Gibbon Memorial Library, a new archive. I think we ought to be thinking, it's a little premature right now, but we ought to be thinking about some sort of citizen group that serves as an advisory board. Or I don't know if that's the right title, but as I look at other libraries, I notice they seem to always have a citizen group.
Some do, some don't.
Well, I'm not saying they all do, but they seem to as I went around. So I just throw that out as something that we can discuss much further downstream. But especially when we have 2 facilities, brand new facility, almost 2 brand new
The
facilities.
general concept of that was debated to some degree when we were negotiating with the Legal Trust Foundation about
Right.
term to it. At that time, they were advocating for their body to be
I read through some of that, and I thought, one, it was a recommendation from the library IQ people that there be one. And then 2, I thought in the agreement, you all came to an agreement that they could be on the library, whatever board we set up as a village.
If we did one.
If we did one, they could be on it, so they weren't not
A
allowed.
conversation that was part of at that time, like, the council members that made that decision. They agreed to put that language in that agreement at the request of the Given Trust Foundation. And at the same time, we're telling each other, we're not interested in having a governing board for a while.
The governing board does.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking.
Or advisory board, or whatever, they just didn't want to do it. It's not, that council didn't want to go down there.
Well, I think it's something we should think about. I'm not sure, but I just feel if it's, this is our library. It's going to be funded by our municipality, as opposed to most of the other libraries that can be county run around these parts. And I'm thinking we must have some citizens who are interested. Go ahead.
That same theme, you can say that we need one for the horse track. Horse track is probably the most valuable asset we have in the Pinehurst, if you look at the property. And it's running as a business for about $400,000 to $500,000 a year on there. And we've got some people that are very interested in horses.
I'm making a note right there. Horse track thought.
Have an advisory committee for that.
All right, we'll put that down.
I was not aware that we had a risk management committee, and I've heard a little bit about what it does. I would have, whether we should appoint these members or not, I would certainly, in a Wall Street context, virtually every major firm has one. The reporting structures are very different. The ones that I think work well is where they report independently, directly to an executive committee or board level, not to the head of a division. And I'd be interested in what risks they think we have. And we don't need to hear from them once a year is plenty, but I'd like to know what they do and what they think and where they think there are risks.
It's all centered on our insurance part.
There's 3 members of our
That's
staff,
the function they.
2 citizen volunteers. I think
Insurance meaning liability primarily?
Liability, medical,
Workers' comp,
workers' compensation.
safety, wellness falls under that umbrella as well.
It's almost a misnomer.
They're helping us decide who the best providers are.
Okay.
there are 2 citizens on it, and there's 3 staff. Right. And it's full. Well, jumping, Dr. Morgan raised the horse track. Let me raise the 2 other thoughts I had. One is, I understand in the past, the Bike and Pedestrian Committee had more members than it currently has. I think we currently have 3. I can't remember. So, again, it might be an opportunity to have another citizen or 2 join that. I don't know. It meets only, what, quarterly? More or less. But I just think it's an opportunity, again, to have more citizens involved. And the last thing I was thinking about, and it came to me recently because of the discussion on ETJ, is whether or not we have more than one person from the ETJ on our planning and zoning board. Now, I didn't realize it, but there are other communities that their planning and zoning board have more than one person on the ETJ. One of them had like 4.
Which was a majority.
Yeah, that's right.
4 out of 7.
That's right, they had the majority. So that was very educational. It struck me as odd, but they're very proud of it, and actually made a very good argument that their ETJ residents, they work well with. Hey, the majority of our planning and zoning board. So anyway, it's something we can think about. I don't know if it's, obviously, one is, I think, required, practical, but maybe we have it. I don't know.
It seems like one is a floor, but it's not necessarily a ceiling.
Right.
So in theory, if there's someone else who came before us for a vacancy, we could have 2 or 3, whatever.
I wouldn't want to, I think the majority should clearly be among our residents. I'm just, let me be clear about that there. I just think, I need one more person who may or may not be in touch. I see we have someone there, they always opine later. Anyway, those are, anybody have anything else in mind?
I would just like to ask about the term lengths and term limits. What's the thought process behind limiting these volunteers to these specific?
Some of them are statutory. I don't recall which ones. Probably the true advisory boards, planning, zoning, board of adjustments, HBC, maybe.
You call?
He's over here.
Yeah, I think at least the planning zoning board or board of adjustment are statutory 6-year limits. HPC, I'm actually pulling up the statutes now because back on the ETJ representation, with the change in 160D, I think before, under 160A, it was you have to have at least one. So there was no ceiling. I think now with the changes in 160D, it's supposed to be proportionate to your population within your municipal limits. Your population at ETJ can be represented as equally as whatever your population is in your corporate limits.
But no more.
I'll have to look and get the exact verbiage, but that's kind of what I remember.
I guess.
Pardon?
As long as there's a minimum of one.
At least has to be a minimum of one, but I think what 160D did was gave allowance for more, but it needs to be proportionally related to your population.
Interesting.
So there would not be a basis for two, I guess.
Not for us at this stage,
Not for us,
but based on population alone.
because we,
I think with respect to HPC, even if it is not statutory, I think it's probably not a bad idea to have it be term limited. It's good to encourage more people, to create opportunities for people to volunteer. And I know you want life and career HPC.
I'm not sure who would want that, there might be a person or two.
But it's interesting to note, and I noted an article in, I know it was Sunday, maybe last week, some of the discussions that are going on in Aberdeen over their desire for downtown renovation bumping up against existing HPC issues. I don't think anyone it's not an argument, it's what are the HPC guidelines saying now, and what do people want to do? They're probably going to have to examine their guidelines. I don't think we have that as a particular issue, although I know that has been an ongoing effort to come to council with some suggested changes in HPC guidelines, and hopefully that will come before us in the not too distant future.
Can I make another point on the ETJ?
Sure.
You know, the municipality does not appoint that member. The county appoints them. The county commissioners have to appoint that member.
But we recommend it. Isn't that-
Yeah, you give a recommendation, and it's typically that is placed on a consent agenda. But if they're going to be like probably a change in number of memberships and things of that nature, probably needs to be a little bit added communication.
It's not solely in our hand. I don't know.
So, I mean, it's 6 years right now on most of these, I guess, is what it amounts to, right?
That's, yeah.
I mean, 6 years is.
Some of them are statutory, and others I think we just made a decision.
Right, yeah.
Previously, it makes sense to have turnover in terms of our volunteers with it. I was one of them.
All right, well, we got some interesting.
My only question has been, it was changed from a 3-year appointment, this is on HPC and planning and zoning, at least, to a 2-year, a couple of years ago, we changed that. And my question is why?
This was confusing.
No, I mean, I served 3 years on HPC and the 3 years on planning and zoning and so forth, and 3 years, I just feel like, sometimes you feel like you're just getting up to speed after a year or so. And it just increases turnover in a way, although 3 appointments would be reasonably running.
I think we voted on this last council act, change that.
It changed the municipal code language associated with these sorts of issues.
We've actually called it feral.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we yelled at the residents of the issue. So, I'm trying to remember, has there been many people who said, I don't want to re-up? I know they usually say yes.
Yeah.
Occasionally. That's it. in the breach.
In the last 6 years on HPC, there was one. There was one who came on and then moved to Southern Pines and went off in less than one term.
That's a little different.
That's different, they move off if they leave.
Yeah, moving is different from saying it.
And that was just recent too,
Changed that.
that the member should be a resident of the municipality.
Saying
But previously, there really wasn't a requirement that the resident had to be a municipality continuously. They had to be when first appointed.
when first appointed.
Right.
We changed it to they got to stay.
If you move, you lose.
Do you move, you lose. We vote none.
Well, where has been the biggest problem getting backfill? Which board?
I think that the hardest, we just went a long time filling the position on first man, because what we look for is people that have the real experience in the insurance industry. So, you know, they're obviously, there are several people who do that background, they do it so volunteer in that capacity, so we kind of hard to find those types of people.
Has there been
Bigger
a,
and more significant work with commissions. HPC lately has been the hardest, I think, to do.
has there been a decline in sort of the bullpen, if you will? Number of applicants who said they'd be willing to serve?
Certainly on the HPC side. And then also along the lines of Patrick's earlier comments, presentation in the like ed committee is kind of defined as not as well as being driven by overall actions.
Yeah, it'd be nice to break that.
Not clear.
This is again, this is very helpful.
What's our, do you have a turn on the current number and status and
Yeah.
openings and so forth?
Here we go, Y committee, so like Ed, you see what current members there.
Asterisk is the chair. Asterisk is in the case of chair.
Yeah, I don't know if that's meaning that asterisk, but.
I see.
That,
Okay. So I see the picture of Campbell's on the suit, that's all.
Yeah, and so you can see that we have a few folks that in August will be eligible for reappointment if they choose to continue to serve. No term limits on it like that, so.
Yeah,
We got a
the
few minutes to have that dialogue with them all about it.
bicycle and pedestrian looks like it's going to be essentially only one person after August.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah, I went to their last meeting and they recognized that they have to start figuring out the membership going forward.
And the bottom of the slide, you can see the HPC, where we have one new vacancy now as a result of council moving.
I think she'll be allowed to sit for May, but not for June. So I think she'll be allowed to sit for May, but not for June.
I think she's told us that she's going to be out of town.
Yes, you got a conflict, yeah.
I think that's what I call her.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a moving situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, the HPC is in good shape.
Okay, so we have one there.
Do you remember Kristen put something out fairly recently, just
Yeah,
generic
we
advertisement? We're looking for.
try to promote support for interesting communities.
See, that's another place where the newsletter, I have to keep one.
Vacancies.
And, you know, we can highlight vacancies, and it's a push out, you know, every household gets a document, they can see it rather than.
If you see the law down in the corner, I haven't seen the final draft of the one we're working on.
Yeah, great, that'll be useful.
That was focused on this first reintroduction, if you will, of our newsletter.
No, that's good.
It was on.
It was quality documents.
Education committee, only the chair is appointed. Somebody you know.
That's a problem situation that we're going to handle as a council in closed session.
And I know we're having a conversation about it. board side of things, we have 4 coming up in this end of this calendar year, October, November, December. 2 of those are eligible for reappointment and 2 are not. Including the chair.
Sure, it's not.
It's not.
We got Jeremy, Paul, Bruce, and Luis.
They wish to drop off, the chair and
Jeremy and Paul.
Question, I think I know the answer, but for my colleagues. Does the chair normally come from someone who's already a member, or does it matter?
Mostly, we reported, when Jack was appointed to the planning and zoning board and board of adjustments, you know, recall, he got need to be appointed as a chair person of the board of adjustments. Normally it comes from the body, but it doesn't have to be.
That's So you could, theoretically, someone who's already on could be promoted. You still have to backfill that person's slot, but it's like the Supreme Court. Okay. But,
And Carol is the ETJ representative.
that's right, that's ETJ.
So why don't the P and Z and DOA chairs be different people, not just statutory?
I think statutorily, I think that's more we normally have in each separate.
I think that makes sense. Well, that's thorough information. I don't know, anybody have any other comments on planning zone?
And we have the big group, NAC, and we have 2 vacancies there that have been lingering. The plant herself one is understandable. Very few homes down there begin created as a placeholder for a future input. We may get one of the current residents down there, one before they have, but it is a very small neighborhood right now.
Right, maybe cottages gets built, there's 38 more houses in the
Yeah.
The other one is currently open, is East Middle Road. That was a presentation that happened several months ago. They advertised for that one.
Where's roughly the boundary between that and Old Town East, which I assume it,
On one side of the traffic circle. on the other.
so that's east of the Percassion, so Pinehurst Trace, Pinehurst Trace has a long range, so just that's along the middle of the
All the
road.
way to the water station.
I forget, are there term limits for the NAC?
6 years.
There are term limits.
Is there anyone about to
Again, it
expire?
was about making sure that we're having some turnover. of people.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Oh, we got Barbara,
And,
Deb Laver, and.
Yeah, so we have 3 that will need to be replaced. Bart Higgins, Ted Deliver, and Ed Dodd.
And 4 was Barbara Ryan, too, right?
Her term,
It says extra.
her term expired, but her term did not. So this is kind of a summary of all that. So it's people that are eligible for reappointment here in the next 6 or so months. VPAC, Tom Elliott, and Paul, planning zoning board of adjustments, Bruce, Louise, Steve, Barbara. And then current or upcoming vacancies, we have the 1 current vacancy in APC, we chair, it's going to open in June. We have 2 openings, upcoming vacancies in the planning zoning board of adjustments, including the chairperson of the board. And then we have 2 current vacancies on the APC and 3 term candidates.
This is very, very helpful as a snapshot. Again, please compliment Shannon, as this is the first time I've seen something like Washington. It's really fun. It's also a credit as you look at NBC, which we just expanded in the last year or so. That we only have 2 vacancies. In one, we have a community that doesn't have many people living there at the moment. So, I mean, that's really quite a...
We have much better representation now than we did a year ago.
Oh, absolutely.
For the vacancies, do we have, again, a bullpen? Are we asking the existing people to try to go recruit their successor? How are we going to replace them?
Yeah.
And some of them have alternates. I mean, they're all supposed to have an alternate, but some of these folks do have alternates.
The alternates won't be necessarily the person that necessarily steps up to their weekend.
How many committees can one individual serve on?
That's a conversation about this, please go to. As I recall, we do not have a defined limit by policy. Although I think there is a general statute limitation on advisory boards of no more than 2. Does that sound right?
I think there's something about if a governing board, if you're an appointed member, or I think maybe like an appointed staff member even, there's a limit, but we do not have a
We don't
limit.
have a limit. But from the standpoint of, I guess, precedent, we have always refrained from having, try to refrain from having a person serve on more than one advisory board.
Advisory.
So we have had a couple situations where a person served on 2 volunteer committees.
Yeah, that's
Tom
that's
Hanks,
right.
for example, but he was on the NC for a while, also been a long-standing member of the Black position.
But there's a significant difference between the NAC and like the planning and zoning and the HCC and so forth. I mean, there's a significant difference in the role that they play.
One's advisory, one's not.
Yeah, right. And so that's why, in my mind, I would think membership in the NAC does not preclude you from being on the others. That would just be my first thought on that. Now, I'm not sure about the other combinations, but that one in particular, I would think would not be a prohibitive. Other thoughts on that?
I think I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's a clear problem. I agree with that statement, but I do think we are better as an organization if we have wider representation.
Oh, no question about that, right.
So if we don't have somebody else that's available who wants to serve.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, again, this is, thanks for briefing. There's a few things we need to focus on. We don't have any,
Well, just one question, which one's the hardest one to get a hold of? Which one's the hardest to find volunteers? Yeah, or is there, are they all equal?
The hardest ones to fill are HPC, light pedestrian, and risk.
And risk, well, risk requires a special skill, but in terms of HPC, I can sort of understand, because the workload is pretty heavy, to be honest with you. I mean, well, it can be.
For a couple of years when I was on it, we were doing 6 or 7 cases every month.
That's
And
what I
I dropped down to just 1 or 2. I don't care, I don't know where it is recently, not that bad, I don't think.
Yeah, 2 to
3.
4, yeah.
well, keep in mind,
That's good average.
number of new housing starts have been dropping too, so there's a little correlation.
Well, if you have to be on a rewrite committee while you're on the board,
Yeah.
believe me.
All right, well, this has been terrific. I'm going to pose a question on the next item. It's called other business. And if anybody has any other business or something they want to mention downstream that we ought to consider for a work session like discussion like we just had.
The way we phrase things in the strategic operating plan, and the column heads are kind of, what does the existing IAP say or what have you? And we have, the one where we have ensure codes and ordinances protect the character. And the follow-up to that is update the PDO. Clearly, I have heard, I think we've all heard, that there are concerns over enforcement of existing regulations across the spectrum of things. And I would hope that we would have, probably not until after the US Open, that we meet in July, a board session on what is it that we need to do, if anything, to improve enforcement. Are there ordinances not properly written so that they're difficult to enforce? Or if not, why is there a public perception that they are not being enforced, whether it's parking in downtown or you name your topic. So that would be one that I would like to look
I think
at.
that's a good conversation topic to have.
Yeah, I do think we should wait until after the open, maybe like that first meeting in July.
We gotta get a budget done. and what that-
Yeah.
I think that's a July.
Have July work session discussion, I would say.
I would also think that having the chief of police and the village manager attend will be assistance.
I think they would be the star witnesses, actually. Yes.
Okay, enforcement, discussion, July. Anything else?
I think we're on the way home.
Yeah, well, we've got time.
To the extent that we have, you call them concerns, suggestions with respect to this, we should just send those into Jeff and so forth. Jeff and Dan.
Matt also. See some problem. All right. Entertain a motion. Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.